Thank you, thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Liberian Diaspora Forum weekly talk show. Today is Sunday, September 22nd, 2013. The local Minnesota time is 8 p.m. Central, which should be 9 p.m. Eastern time. My name is Kafuma Kruma, and I'll be your host as always. Our guest tonight is our guest tonight is Honorable Amara Konneh, Minister of Finance and Development Planning, MFDP. As many of you as we'll discuss shortly here. Honorable Konneh, I do want to welcome you. Good evening and welcome back to the Liberian Diaspora Forum. I will turn the floor over to you to make your introductory remark, and shortly after that we will get our audience involved. Once again, thank you so much for coming back to the show, and the floor is all yours, sir.
Thank you, Kafuma. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm happy to be here. Good evening to my fellow Liberians who are online. Tonight, I look forward to having a conversation with you all on what's happening in our country, especially on the economy. I would like to listen to you more for suggestions, maybe take your questions, so that I can update you on what we are doing to rebuild an economy that was destroyed for more than 35 years. I have to tell you that it's been a rewarding experience for me to serve my country in this capacity at this particular time because there are so many problems, there are so many issues. Our country has been through a lot over the past 35 years. I would like to begin my conversation tonight, like I've always done, to sort of let people know that in order to fully understand and appreciate what's happening in Liberia today, it's good for us to tell the Liberian story. That story did not begin with the 1990 war. That story did not begin in 2006. That story started at the founding of Liberia. And what we are trying to do really started in 1972 when our economy started to decline, and then it got worse during the decade of the 1980s, and then it collapsed during the last decade of the 1990s, and now we are rebuilding, basically from scratch. And so we are making a lot of progress. There are still some challenges, a lot of them, but I believe that our tomorrow is better than our yesterday. And I'm very optimistic about the future of our country. So tonight, I hope to share with you some of the opportunities we have, some of the things that are in the pipeline, and some of the challenges we face, around which we must unite as a country to fix. And so I look forward to an interactive session tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Konneh. Thank you. Folks, that is the Minister of Planning, Minister of Finance, now Minister of Finance and Planning, Amara Konneh. You heard right there. And open up your question line, as always. Your question lines are open.
I have to correct you there. I've not been appointed yet. I've not even been for the job yet.
My apologies.
The law has been passed, but the president has not made an appointment. So I just want to correct that.
Thank you for the record, and I'm glad this conversation is all recorded. Thank you for correcting me there. So hopefully all of our audience heard the correction as well. Thank you. My apology. We do have few ground rules for tonight's conversation. Obviously, when I go after these our guests to come, the high-profile one, I feel a lot of time that oftentimes we bring guests on the show and we don't focus on issues that we discuss with them before they come on the show. And so tonight, we want to encourage you, all of our listeners tonight, to please focus your questions on the economy. That's what Amara is minister for. He's the Minister of Finance, and so his primary responsibility has to do with the economy of Liberia. So please, from the budget to job creation, somewhere along that line. Obviously, the budget just got passed. We got a lot of questions about that, but we do want to encourage you to keep your questions focused in that direction. With that said, I have some questions lined up here, and I will get to you here. Let me just, as always, I like to begin the questioning, and I just like to ask the minister. I'm so glad to have him back. I know that our economic economic improvement is a gradual thing. It can't be overnight process. So obviously, it has to be done bit by bit. So I guess my opening question would be, Honorable Konneh, what's different about the Liberian economy today from the last time you were on the show? What has changed for the better?
Thank you very much, Kafuma. I was only here about a month ago. I can tell you that there has not been any really dramatic change. What is changing on a daily basis is the gradual progress we are making on, implementing the public sector investment programs that are intended to transform the economy. For example, we are now well advanced in rebuilding the major highway that cuts across the growth corridor in Liberia, in which more than 50% of our people live. This is the highway from Pinsville to Banga to Ganta and then to the Guinea border. That has progressed far better than when I came here back in July. I also know that we have concluded the Bikena Highway. I know that we've started the procurement process for the rehabilitation of McCarthy Hydro that is going to produce between 64 to 80 megawatts of power. I know right now we are in the final stages of completing the design for the new Caldwell Bridge. I know that the fuel jetty, the land where the fuel jetty, the pipe will be running from the Freeport of Monrovia to LPRC is being worked on. I also know that we have passed a new budget in which more than $110 million is earmarked towards public sector investment program. But I also know that in our economy today, the Liberian dollar is depreciating against the U.S. dollar. There are several reasons for that, which I will talk to later on in the program. So within a period of 1 month, a lot is happening in our economy.
Thank you. That's precisely what I thought. I mean, even on a daily basis, let alone a whole month. I'll take the first caller for the night, and I don't know if I told you how you could get him if you have question, comment, or concern. If I didn't, well, all you need to do is to dial *61 on your phone. I see what appears to be a lot of first-time caller. We welcome you to the Liberian Diaspora Forum. If you have any question, comment, or concern at any time, by all means, please dial *61, and I will register your question over to me, and we will get it over to the minister. If that doesn't work for you, you may text your question to 612-203-3820. If that doesn't work either, by all means, please email your question to the Liberian Diaspora Forum at live.com. I do have that email account open here right now. So as you can see, you have more than one way to get your questions over to us and over to the minister. So I'll take the first caller for the night. No name. Your last 4 digits, 6899. 6899. Would you please tell us your name, where you calling from, and your question for Honorable Konneh?
My name is William Quapo, calling from Worcester, Massachusetts. My question here is, with the new budget that was passed, I want the Honorable Finance Minister to tell me, with the rate of unemployment in the country, how many jobs he thinks the budget will create.
Thank you. Honorable Konneh? Honorable Konneh? No, hold on. I got a question, but I don't know if we lost the minister or not. Hold on. His line is closed here, sir.
Can you hear me?
Honorable Konneh? Yeah, we can hear you now. Yeah, we can hear you now.
I had a question. Mr. William, I didn't get the last name, asked about the number of jobs that will be created with this new budget.
Right.
First of all, let me say on the record that the crisis of our time is this huge unemployment. Let me give you some facts so that we understand the unemployment challenge in our economy. We have understood the unemployment environment. The labor force survey that was conducted in 2010, jointly between the government of Liberia and the International Labor Organization, showed that there are about 50,000 young people of working age entering the labor force each year in Liberia. Our economy has been growing consistently since 2005 at an average rate of 7%. But that growth is driven mainly by the enclave sector of the economy, meaning mining and also forestry and rubber. The same sectors that drove the economy before the war. This is precisely where we are. So there's no diversification, there's no transformation, there's no manufacturing. The service sector, hotels and restaurants are picking up, but they are not producing as many jobs as we would love to. And so even up to today, the unemployment rate in the formal sector is, around 5 to 6%, according to that survey. But the vulnerable employment in Liberia is high, around 70-75%, where people working in agriculture and other, sectors in the economy don't have what you call the protection that the formal sector of the economy provides. So I just wanted to set that context. And then to answer the question specifically, William, we have not been able to pinpoint precisely how many jobs we will create with this new budget. But with the public sector investment program, part of it, already we have about 45,000 people working in the civil service. So with the public sector investment program portion of the budget, because we have the recurrent portion of the budget that takes out of the civil service, and then we have the development portion of the budget that should be investing in the roads and the capital programs that should create jobs. What we know is that we will not sign any, project document in the Ministry of Finance without the implementing entities and the contractors telling us precisely how many jobs will be created. And so we'll be able to know that in due course and report to the Liberian people on a quarterly basis. Just last week, I put on the table before the Cabinet and the Liberia Development Alliance a proposal for creating jobs, and here is how it's going to work. First, the government will not reduce its payroll over the next period. What we will do is to begin to create jobs in the private sector by partnering with them. One, through the cooperative education program, a partnership that includes the universities in Liberia, the government, and the big companies, so that the government can provide some subsidies to cover half of the overhead of those who will be entering through this process in the big companies, so that, we can share the burden. Number two, we have the Liberia Youth Empowerment Program last year, which we successfully employed 3,500 young people permanently on a payroll. This budget will continue to fund that program until the end of the fiscal year. The other area that we are focusing on in terms of unemployment is through the maritime program. The maritime training program is now attracting several hundred young people. We're also introducing the beach program this year that will be targeting additional 3,000 young people. In addition to that, we have the road maintenance program that will be launching through the village cooperative, targeting the Bikena Highway. All of the villages along the highway, we are going to be forming cooperatives of young people so that they can maintain the road. These are labor-intensive part of our employment program. But at the core of all of this, the budget intends to invest about $3 million into a technical and vocational education program to prepare the young people for the new economy where we are seeing a boom in the construction sector so that they can have the skills. Today in Liberia, to do the finishing, to build homes in Liberia, people have to go across the border to Cote d'Ivoire, to Guinea, to bring people who have the prerequisite expertise to do the final touchings. So it's a combination of intervention, but this year, through this partnership, we are hoping to report regularly to the Liberian people how many jobs we are creating on a quarterly basis. Hope to be sharing that information with you.
Thank you, Mr. Konneh. Obviously, the caller has made an entry to ask a follow-up question, but we will get to that later due to the volume of callers and people waiting to ask questions. So we'll get to you. I'm seeing your new entry for possible follow-up. We'll see if we can get to that. Let's take another caller here, 8821-8821. Would you please state your name, where you're calling from, and your question for Honorable Konneh? 8821. Hello? Kadu? 215 Yurako, 8821. Are you there?
Hello?
Right. Hello? Can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, please state your name, where you're calling from, and your question for Honorable Konneh.
My name is Jim.
Okay. Hello, are you there? Your line must be bad. Yeah. Call again. Let's take another caller. 2022 2022. Your name, where you calling from, and your question for Honorable Konneh. 2022.
Oh, hi. Good evening, everybody. My name is Musa Konneh. Musa V. Konneh.
Okay. Mr. Konneh.
Yeah, I welcome the Finance Minister and everybody that is listening tonight. My question here is, a lot of our brothers in America, or in particular Philadelphia, they do send cars, some goods to Liberia. But recently we heard that because some of us, we do shipping with them, instead of taking cars to Liberia, they decided to take cars to Guinea because they said the taxation or the tariff level on the goods at the free port now is higher. In order to escape, or in order for them to make profit, they have to take their goods to Guinea. So, as a minister of finance,
and then drive it to Liberia, right?
Right, and then drive it to Liberia.
Right.
Then, as a finance minister, as a means to generate money for the country. So, what he think is a possible way in order to encourage brothers take their goods to Liberia through the free port, not to the neighboring country.
Thank you, Mr. Konneh.
Well, Mr. Konneh, my data shows me otherwise. My data shows me, the custom data shows me that you have more cars passing through Liberia to Guinea today than the other way around. Maybe this is a specific case that I will look into, but let me say this. We have a regulation in Liberia that prevents the importation into the country cars that are 10 years or older. In that case, we slap high tariffs on these cars to discourage them from coming into the country because they don't add onto alleviating the transportation needs in the economy. We have that regulation. This is the first time I'm hearing this, but the latest data that I have looked at as part of our fiscal management team regular activities shows me that you have more transshipment activities happening in Liberia today than it used to be, before we put our custom regime in place the way it is operating now. But I take note of what you have raised. I will look further into this when I get back, and then I will appropriately take action if this is the case.
Thank you, Honorable Konneh. For those of you who just joining us, I'd like to welcome you to the Liberian Diaspora Forum Weekly Talk Show. And as you already know, we have the privilege of being in company with Honorable Minister of Finance again for the second time this year. How lucky we are. So welcome to the show. If you have any question, comment, concern, please dial star 61 on your phone, and I'll take your question over to the Minister. Konneh, before I take the next caller here, I'd like to ask you about some of the creations, some of the legislations that went through recently, including the one that finally put the deal through for Ministry of Planning and Economic Affairs and merging that with Planning and the new Revenue Department that was also created through legislation. So what would those mean for the economic growth of Liberia? How can we expect to benefit from those creations?
Well, as you know, that Liberia continues to see improvement in governance and the political environment in the country. Today, in terms of political stability, we're ahead of several comparators in our region. We're ahead of Cote d'Ivoire, we're ahead of Guinea, in terms of political stability. On governance, it's a continuous process. The specific case of establishing a new ministry called the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning and the Liberian Revenue Authority is a major reform. We need to take out as much as possible the transactional aspect of fiscal management out of the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance should be a policy place where our focus should be thinking through policies that will enhance the management of the economy. People tend to think of the Ministry of Finance as an accounting function. It's just accounting where accountants go. But the Ministry of Finance today, all over the world, primary responsibility is to manage the economy, to make sure that fiscal resources, are aligned to supporting the development plan of the country. This is how it is in Rwanda, in Kenya, in Uganda, in Sierra Leone, in Ghana, in most of Africa today, and in the Asian target countries. So I think this is not something that is new to Liberia. It is something that is happening all on the continent, and we continue to see impressive growth and development in those countries. And I am certain that Liberia will benefit because Liberia cannot be the only country that is wrong and right, and the rest of the countries on the continent are wrong. The issue of the Liberia Revenue Authority is critical. We are not a country of taxpayers. Even if you leave the United States to go to Liberia, when you go there, you will expect that, coming from a country where tax payment is and if you don't do it, you get into trouble. We see that people try to bypass the system. So in order for us to change that, we need a autonomous agency in a country with enormous power, like the IRS is here, compensated above regular civil servants, and then the Minister of Finance, can set a performance quota for them to perform in terms of revenue collection. Their sole responsibility is to go after what is the government, and we believe we can collect more taxes that way. We can enforce tax collection across the country that way, and we can set, performance standards for them, which if they meet, we give them bonuses, and which if they don't meet, then they know that their jobs are at stake. It basically helps to weed out corruption in the tax collection system, which is our hope and desire. So we believe that by doing this, you align, resources to the country development strategy, where we are looking for now inclusive growth not just around, Monrovia, but also in the corridors that we have identified. And here are they. The main economic corridor in Liberia is a triangle. The point leading from Monrovia to Ganta and then Haifa is where about 68% of our population lives, according to 2008 population census. Then from Yekepa, you go down the rail to Buchanan, and then you come back and connect to Monrovia. In that triangle right there is where about 70% of Liberia's economic activities are taking place. This is the main growth corridor in our country, and that is why we are focusing on, connecting Buchanan to Monrovia, and then Monrovia to Ganta, to Yekepa, and then Yekepa down to Buchanan. Right now, we are in discussion with the Guinean authorities for a major company operating in Mantfigi, right across from Manimba, where ArcelorMittal is operating, to begin to ship iron ore through Liberia in about 2 years. That is going to be remarkable in terms of our growth and development. And so our country is in need of reforms that will allow these resources behind the country development plan so that we don't see growth without development like we saw in the 50s and 60s, but actually growth with inclusive development that can be shared by everybody. In terms of the other, legislations, consistent with action, I have to say that, regardless of the politics, regardless of the perception of our national legislature, we work hard with them in the past several weeks to pass key, legislative instruments that have implications, positive implications for the economy. The first one is the ratification of the $65 million loan from the European Investment Bank. Basically, that is part of the funding we have mobilized to rebuild Mount Coffee. Like I said earlier, Mount Coffee is going to generate between 64 to 80 megawatts of electricity. Currently, we are building 3 thermal electricity plants, 38 megawatts, which will replace the diesel generators that are running the Monrovia electricity grid now. This 38 megawatts will drastically reduce the cost of energy from 54 cents per kilowatt hours today to around 25 cents. This is a short-term strategy leading to the hydro. The hydro will reduce it further to between 10 to 11 cents. Now you can see why the Liberian economy is not producing jobs. Back to the first question, because mining activities, forestry, and rock are not, producing as many jobs as people think they should. You guys, produce between 3,000 to 5,000 jobs, on an average, over several years. But what we need in the Liberian economy is manufacturing, is the factories. We're not back to where we were before the war in terms of manufacturing. And the constraint to manufacturing is the high cost of electricity. So by reducing the cost of electricity, and at the same time building incentives for light manufacturing to start happening in Liberia, we project, robust job creation in the future. The other thing that the legislature approved is the ratification of the treaty for the West African Power Pool project that is going to interconnect Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone. This is a project that we are calling the CLSG, C meaning Cote d'Ivoire, S Sierra Leone, L Liberia, and then G Guinea. Electricity comes into Liberia from Cote d'Ivoire, a 225 kV line from into Liberia. Right at Ganta, it goes into JK and then Zeribri. It goes down the rail into Buchanan, and then it comes through Firestone, and then connects with Monrovia, and then goes to Bumi, Cape Mount, and then to Sierra Leone. That project has started. Today we have transmission and distribution lines in Ganta. It's going out to Yekepa, and then to Zwedru. Then another one is going to come into Hapa, and then up into Fishtown, River J County, and then connect with Zwedru. For the first time, if I'm correct here, the southeastern part of Liberia, that part of Liberia, from Nimba all the way to Maryland, will be getting electricity for the first time. There's another one that we're calling the Fishtown Hapa Highway Lot 1. This is the pavement. We've already done the laterite. We've opened the road from Fishtown in River J County all the way to Hapa, Maryland, through funding from the African Development Bank. Phase 2 is starting now this dry season, hopefully November or December, where the pavement of that road for Lot 1 from Hapa to Kawlinken on that road will start. We've already mobilized the resources from Kawlinken to Fishtown Lot 2. The idea is to pave the road from Ganta to Maryland. Already, we've mobilized about $120 million from the World Bank, IDA program. Sweden has put in another $50 million. We've gotten $80 million from the World Bank program. That's $130 million so far for the Ganta to Fishtown Road, connecting the two, projects. When concluded, this means that we'll have paved road from Ganta all the way to Hapa. Currently, we are paving the road from Pinsville to Ganta. So in essence, if we as a government focus and we don't get distracted and we just take the beating, all the noise, and then we just focus and be disciplined and get this one done, it means that our country will be connected from the west at Bullwater side to the east in Harper, Maryland with Kota Road. This is significant. It's going to improve our economy significantly. It's going to promote regional trade. Our economy is no longer going to be built around the 4 million people we have, but potentially 10 million people in part of Sierra Leone, in the forest region of Guinea, and also in western Cote d'Ivoire. The other instrument that the legislature ratified recently is the Cotonou Agreement of the European Union. That agreement will allow the government of Liberia to access nearly $360 million in financing from the EU under the 11 European Development Fund, which will go to support energy, education, and state building. Under the energy program, the money will tentatively finance a reservoir for Mount Coffee. Let me tell you about what this reservoir is important. The Simple River gets dry in the dry season. So even before the war, the energy output from Mount Coffee used to be less, so the government LEC used to buy electricity from bone mines. That's what used to happen. Today, we are rebuilding the hydro. In the dry season, two things will happen. The water level will go down and the energy output will decrease. It will hurt businesses and households. So the 3 thermal plants that we are building will be standby to provide additional electricity to the grid, 38 megawatts in the dry season. So the reservoir is important so that the excess water that comes into the Simple River in the rainy season can be stored somewhere in a reservoir that can be released in the dry season so that our hydro can output the same level of energy it does in the rainy season. We also were able to get through the legislature the ratification of the amendment of the ArcelorMittal agreement so they can start phase 2. As you know, right now they started phase 1, and that helped our group number significantly and also helped our revenue intake, also help with employment. So phase 2 is going to start soon, and this is going to basically increase the expected export of iron ore from 5 million metric tons to around 14 million metric tons. That means more revenue for the Liberian government and more employment for the Liberian people. The other one is the Orios mining. This is the first commercial gold mine, with production estimated to start in around 2014. We're expected really to produce 120,000 ounces of gold per year, according to the exploration documents, data that were provided to us, and the government is expected to get about $120 million annually from there. This is significant. And so I just wanted to name a few of the economic instruments we got through the legislature that should boost the Liberian economy. As a result, the IMF just concluded a mission in Liberia to basically assess our performance on the economy. And, together now we have adjusted our projection. Liberia is going to grow around 8.1% this year compared to 7.5% last year. So we are on our way. It's just that we need to focus now on how that growth is translated into jobs and opportunities for Liberians.
Thank you, Honorable Konneh. Just before I take the next caller, though, I just like a quick clarification on all the money that are coming to Liberia, whether from IMF, from World Bank, from our European partners, Sweden. Are those loans or they are just aid? I mean, what's the status of? Are they just these are new loans being signed?
Okay, it's a combination of of grants and loans. For example, the hydro. We have about the government of Liberia through our budget is going to contribute $45 million United States to the budget, and this is where our austerity program to cut, recurrent expenditure, fuel, and other things, we've done well. We've managed to save about $111 million. We need to do more, and most of that is earmarked for our energy program. The Norwegian government is giving us around $75 million United States dollars in grant. The German government is giving us $35 million in grant, and then the gap, which is around $65 million, will be financed through a loan from the European Investment Bank. All of this money does not come directly through the budget. They are managed through a project implementation unit at the LEC that is fully staffed by Manitoba Hydro. We must all conform to a procurement process agreed to by Germany, Norway, the EIB, government of Liberia, of funds. And then the African Development Bank finance road, the Ganta, the Harbor to Konneh, Fishtown Road, is a credit, that we will pay for with zero interest rate. You have about 10-year grace period, and then a 25-year maturity period. So the European money is all grant. The $360 million that we'll be using over the period of the agenda for transformation is all grant. So it's a combination of loans and grant.
Thank you. Folks, if you're just joining us, I know some of you have. Welcome to the Liberian Diaspora Forum Weekly Talk Show. We have Honorable Amara, Minister of Finance, with us tonight discussing the national economy of Liberia. If you have any question, comment, or concern, please dial *61 on your phone, *61, and I'll take your question over to the Minister. We'll take the next caller, 1963-1963. Your name, where you calling from, your question for Honorable Konneh, 1963.
Good evening, Honorable Konneh. My name is El Donzo. I'm calling from Plymouth, Minnesota. I have two questions. My question has to do with the last visit. When the minister was here, he mentioned about West Point, saying that West Point was underdeveloped, and he was really thinking to do something to make it, to just facilitate a little bit. I don't know how far the minister have gone with that. That's one. My second question has to do with the merger of the planning ministry to the finance. I saw a couple of people, protesters on front page online. People were saying that they're going to lose their jobs. So I wanted you to clarify on this air whether the merger will not lead to layoff of employees. Thank you for coming back to the stage. Thank you so much, El Donzo.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donzo, for your questions. One, West Point. I don't think we can fix West Point, overnight. It's a very complicated place. What I say in Minnesota is that I use West Point sometimes to mentally run away from the pressure of the job and then begin to really find something that will motivate me. When I look at West Point out of the 9th floor window of my office at 8 p.m. every night, I see darkness. So if I was a stranger to Liberia, I wouldn't know if there was a township there that had between 50 to 60,000 people. So at 8 p.m., a lot of things are happening in that darkness in West Point. And, with all due respect to my brothers and sisters who live there, a lot of things are happening. Some good things are happening there. Some kids are studying. A lot of good people have come out of West Point. But also some bad things are happening there. Theft, incest, rape, everything's, happening there. So when I think about that and I think about our energy program, I find motivation there. If we can transform that, to get one light bulb in each of the houses in West Point so that the children there are safe at night, so that they can study, I think we will be making a big difference, and that's what that motivates me. I also talk about water in West Point. to get water there. We are working now with Water and Sewer to build water kiosks in West Point where our people can have access to safe drinking water. And also public latrine. We've been wanting to build public latrine in West Point now for more than 2 years. It's the issue of land. There's no space, and nobody wants to relinquish. Just 3 days ago, we concluded a national security retreat in Liberia where we were talking about financing the unmailed transition, which is happening now, to support the police, the fire service, the immigration, and the other security agencies. And then the fire chief of Liberia told us a story about West Point. When fire broke out there, they went there because we have new fire trucks. We expect another new fire truck to come from Minnesota. Some of you saw it when we went to the program there. And they got there, but they could not access the building that was burning because of the lack of zoning and all of that. And so they couldn't get there. They had to use buckets, together with the neighbors to put that fire out. So these are some of the challenges we have there. It is our desire to work with the people to change that, but changing it will be difficult because our country, our purse, is not at the level yet where we can do a radical transformation of West Point that will require the relocation of our people and rebuilding that place. On the issue of the merger, you're quite correct. A few employees in the ministry, who were unsure about their future, protested the merger, which is their right to do. And what we did was we informed them, this merger was not imposed, by me. The government made a decision about this merger even before I became Minister of Planning. It's just that as a reformer, as somebody who believes in reform, I just took it and ran with it because it was an agreed upon decision. And so there was a steering committee that was chaired by the Governance Commission. On that steering committee, the members were the Ministry of Justice, just to look at all the legal issues, the Civil Service agency to make sure that the rights of civil servants were protected and that nobody was thrown out in the street. We cannot be, crying about unemployment in the economy and then, do away with the few jobs we have. Even if we have problem with skills, we have to do it in a way that is sensitive so that, we can, we don't hurt families. And then the Liberia Institute for Public Administration was on that. The Ministry of Planning was on that steering committee, and the Ministry of Finance was on it, plus the Ministry of State. And so the reform, the merger was well thought out. The Civil Service Agency went for the hearing to the National Legislature, lay out a transition plan that includes the following. One, the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning requires only about 600 staff to make it lean, mean, and efficient and a truly policy agency. The Revenue Authority will require more. And so currently we have about 2,000 employees at the Ministry of Finance, and we have another 116 or so employees at the Ministry of Planning. So obviously, some of them will have to be redirected to somewhere else in the civil service or in the public sector. And so we are working with the state-owned enterprises to match the skills we have with some of the openings they have to see if some of the employees that will be affected can go there. We also have what you call voluntary separation. Those who are close to retirement age that would like to separate from the public service and maybe start their own small business, with a package is also on the table. There's one that is called retraining. As you know, most of the people enter the civil service at the height of the war. They really didn't have the prerequisite training and skills to do the work that they're in, even though we've been providing training over the years. What we see is those who want to pursue higher education can be financed. So we have all these options on the table to make sure that, our civil servants are protected. But before I close on this, let me tell you also that we have another category of employees, most of whom are part of this demonstration. We call them the volunteers. When I went to the Ministry of Finance, I met about 400 volunteers there. These are people who every year came as part of the vacation job program that the government has every year. Then after the vacation job concluded and they got paid, they refused to separate from the ministry, and that was not enforced. So they kept coming there every day, calling themselves volunteers. And some of the senior people also brought people in to help them in their offices without going through the due process of, civil service testing and issuance of personal action notices. So we have that category of people who are part and parcel now of the family of the Ministry of Finance who are also concerned about their status. So it's very complicated, but we believe that we will manage it, with sensitivity to people's needs, knowing fully well that we need to counsel these people and we need to find a way to find employment for them somewhere in the economy. So this is what we're working on.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Konneh. Folks, I do want to welcome those of you who just joined us. I do want to welcome you to the Liberian Diaspora Forum Weekly Talk Show. And I particularly want to welcome our few overseas callers. I recognize 3 or 4 different Liberian numbers online. I don't know who you are, but if at any time anyone has a question to ask, by all means, please dial *61 on your phone. *61, dial that on your phone, and your questions will come over here. We will get over to the minister. Let's take Mr. Williams' quick follow-up question, and then we can proceed from there. 6899, you've been waiting for a while now. Welcome back to the show. Your follow-up question, sir.
Yes, this is Augustus Konneh from Massachusetts. Actually, William was on my line also. But
okay.
My question is, actually, I don't know if it's a question or a comment. It's regarding, over the years, I realized that Lofa County has been one of the counties that supports our nation in terms of agriculture and whatnot. And during my stay in the country, the roads in that area has always been bad. I hear about roads going to Maryland and the other places, but what are the development project that is earmarked for Lofa County, Mr. Minister?
Thank you. What was your name again? I didn't get your name.
Augustus Konneh.
Konneh. Mr. Augustus, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The projects that I just outlined briefly are what we call Category 1 projects. What we have done is to put the reconstruction projects into different categories. Category 1 are the green ones. The projects we have concluded feasibility studies and design that we have collected all the money for. All we need to do is to hold people accountable for getting them done. These are the Category 1 projects that I just outlined: the hydro, the highway from Pinsville to Ganta-Guinea border, the highway from Harper to Kaulakian, the Cardwell Bridge, the West African Power Pool project, and also the thermal, plant, for electricity. Your county, Lofa County, is the breadbasket in our economy. Let's talk about agriculture a little bit. Today, from 2006 to 2011, agriculture comprised of 64% of our economy. Now, because of the resuscitation of the mining sector, that has declined to 34%. We have resuscitated forestry and rubber, even though forestry, we have some complications there. We need to fix that sector, but we have not resuscitated the small tree crop sector. And this is where we are now. We've mobilized close to $200 million through IFAD funding and also through the World Bank to resuscitate small tree crops, basically coffee and cocoa, particularly in Lofa County. But the road in Lofa is terrible. The road connecting Lofa with Palm County is terrible. So we are concluding feasibility study on the road from Banga to Menikoma. Lot 1, which runs from Banga to Konneh, has been concluded. Lot 2 from Konneh to Menekoma will be concluded according to the Ministry of Public Works later this year. The money to do the feasibility on that road was provided to us through a grant funding from the Kuwaiti government. That project is concluded. What we have done at the level of the Ministry of Finance in terms of lining up resources for the pavement of that road is to focus on the Arab lenders, Kuwait being the main focus there because they provided the funding for the feasibility study. So it's Kuwait, it's the Saudi fund, it's Badia, and the rest of them that we have lined up. They're just waiting now because they cannot fund one part of the road without the other part. We need to get the full economic benefit of that road. We are also considering that road for funding through the Millennium Challenge Corporations Compact program, which we are now working on. So basically, we should know by next year whether we have sufficient money to do that road. Let me say this for the record. I'm not going to say that the entire stretch of that road from Banga to Menekoma will be finished during the term of President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf because of the distance. But I can assure you that we are working day and night to make sure that the pavement of that road do start while she's president. And the next president, the next government can conclude it because the financing will have already been lined up. That's number one. Number two, recently I was in India and China looking for resources, for our development programs. We're still talking to the Chinese. We wanted resources that were not linked to any natural resource. This is key for us. We don't want to mortgage the future of the country just for today. So in India, we're able to conclude a loan negotiation within our debt management strategy approved by the IMF, $144 million.
You say getting low. I don't know if something changed for your position. You're getting kind of low.
Can you hear me now? $144 million loan credit from India to run a transmission and distribution line from Ganta, from the West African Power Pool line in Ganta, all the way down to Kakata, and then from Banga it will go down to Dikana, and from Banga it will go up to Zozo. We have concluded already $15 million from the World Bank, which we have signed, and now it's before the legislature when they come back from their recess. $15 million of transmission and distribution from the Monrovia grid to Kakata. When all of these projects, are completed, you will have electricity connecting from the hydro from Monrovia all the way to Ganta. So Lufa County is not excluded. Lufa County is there. The road is key, and we are working on the feasibility and the design as we speak. And then we are already advanced in resource mobilization for that road as well. The agricultural part is we are going to infuse close to $150 million into resuscitating the coffee and cocoa sector so that we can go back to where we were before the war when we used to export these commodities. Also, I don't know the name of the company. There was an agricultural company in the Foya area that took a lot of machines there that was supported by the Libyans. Since the overthrow of President Gaddafi, that project died. Now I understand that South Koreans are interested in that project again. The negotiation is concluded, and I understand that they should be taking over that pretty soon. This is mechanized agriculture. So we are working on it, small. Hopefully we want to make sure that we manage expectations. So we don't want to talk about this much until we get everything lined up, but it is in the pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Konneh. Let's take our next caller, 1826. Would you please state your name, where you're calling from, your question for Honorable Konneh? 1826.
Mr. Konneh, welcome to the show. This is Kotumu Amara, as usual, calling from Minneapolis. I have a couple of questions. The first one here is, when you were giving your outline, you spoke a lot about education, preparing the workforce, and I'm very impressed. But we've been hearing so much about Liberia education system regarding to bribing, how professors accept, bribery, and then how students don't study, and we hear a whole lot about it. I even read something this few days about exams and all that. Do you know, is there any budget assigned to that? I mean, how does the education system can be tightened? Because I feel like if people, whatever you can prepare right now, even if you go to school, if the education system is that weak, it's gonna backfire right back to the economy, because they're gonna get from there claiming that they know something and they don't know. At the same time, they go back to work, and that will affect the economy. So, is there a way to solution, to really, I'm suggesting that maybe look for a neutral body from another country that will just watch those professors and watch students. Whosoever student bribe a professor, make sure that they expel you forever. Just set some kind of example, even if it's not going to last forever. But this might be a little bit petite issue to people, but I think that's something the government's supposed to look at. And my next question here is, how does the new budget relate to women empowerment issue in Liberia?
Okay.
Thank you. Well, even though the first question, I've tried to establish a contact with Minister of Education, and they keep offering me the Deputy Minister instead, and I'm trying to get a minister. I would think that would be a fair question for him, but I'll let the Honorable deal with it in the best way possible. Yeah.
You're absolutely right, but I do know something about the sector as the coordinator of the Liberia Development Strategy. Kotumo, you are absolutely correct. Our education sector is in crisis, it's in trouble. And it didn't start yesterday, it didn't start 5 years ago. It started more than 20 years ago. I'd like to set context so that we understand the magnitude of the problem we're dealing with. Here's the issue. We have in our system between 3,000 to 4,000 volunteer teachers who took up similar to what we have in the Ministry of Finance. Those who filled the void when all of the trained teachers left the country during the war, and those who returned, found a void and tried to, fill it by volunteering to teach in our schools. These are people that don't have the requisite education and training to be classroom teachers, but because of their good heart and also the quest for employment, they got into the teaching profession. Over the years, we've been gradually training them through our teaching institutes. As you know, the teacher training institutes were non-existent until about 2-3 years ago. And so our focus now is, for the first term in President Salih's administration, under President Salih's presidency, we have focused on building education infrastructure. Today, you go around in most major areas, you see school buildings rehabilitated or new built. People are, some of the pictures I've seen on Front Page Africa where they show a shot of children going to school. Those were built by communities on their own to start school, not going out of the formal system, but that's a different story. What we need to do and what we have done in the budget is to focus on the quality of teaching that comes out of school, beginning with the Teacher Training Institute. The Teacher Training Institute, up to last fiscal year, was getting about $250,000 in teacher support. Too small. You cannot get results with that kind of money. This year, we propose to the legislature to increase funding to the 3 Teacher Training Institutes, each of them of $1 million, which they have gladly accepted. What this will do is to rapidly train our people. The Peace Corps volunteers are now deployed in Liberia in these schools. We have teacher trainers from Nigeria who reach out to our African brothers and sisters to come. And so we have better trainers now at our Teacher Training Institute, and we have the resources to train for the period that they should be there for, because after on-the-go training, you have to feed them, you have to pay them, and all of that. And when you leave, you have to find employment for them in the schools. So this is something that we are focusing on. The second item that the education fund in the budget, which is around $10 million with fund, is supervision. All right. They have changed all of the county development office, county education officers. They have changed the district education officers, and they started this rotational program. But we have committed at the level of the Ministry of Finance to make all of them mobile with this regular supervision visits to our schools to make sure that the teachers are there in the classroom, and 2, that they are following the curriculum, and then 3, that exams are administered without taking drafts from students. You're absolutely right. This issue of corruption, of dishonesty, is all across the sector in Liberia. Just recently, we heard about the police through the Transparency International survey that they did of the police force. The same thing is in the education sector. It will take time for us to clean up the system, but I think the focus should be on our teacher training institutions and see how we can get these unqualified volunteer teachers out of the system, and those who have the minimum skills to teach should be given more training. Our Teachers College at the University of Liberia is receiving increased funding, and then building support with universities like the Indiana University to make sure that their curriculum is tailored to train better teachers. Finally, we are building incentives for graduates of the Teachers College to move into the interior where they can get more pay and resettlement benefits in this education fund that I talk about. So on the financing side, we believe that we're taking the right initial steps. It's not adequate, just initial steps, to provide the support to the Ministry of Education to deal with this problem.
Thank you. Konneh?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that we still have you.
How long is this thing for? And it's 1 hour, right?
Well, if you want to make it 1 hour, we can do so. We usually go in an hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours. But if you want to
I just want to make sure. Because, it's 2 o'clock in Liberia now. I just came back.
It is. That's why I'm so, I don't even know who these Liberian callers are, but I'm not surprised when you have the Honorable Finance Minister. It's not, obviously, there will be some people staying up late to listen to that. But we can keep it an hour and a half, just so we'll have the privilege of hosting you again. So we don't want to do anything that will. Obviously, you're here for other official business, and tomorrow being Monday. So I can perfectly understand that, and I hope the audience listening to the conversation. So if you haven't had the chance to ask your question, and if you have one, by all means, please star 61 on your phone so we can get a question over to the minister and quickly get him out of here. As far as our next guest, Honorable Vani Chairman, UP National Party Chairman, arrived in the country yesterday. I spoke with him today. We will be hosting sometime during the week. He can't do weekends, so it'll be sometime during the week. And I'll let you know when I hear from him tomorrow, Monday, as per our discussion. We'll take the next caller here quickly so we can try to get the Honorable Minister out of here. I believe this is Mr. Randolph Jabate of Limani in New York. Mr. Jabate, welcome to the show, and your question for the Minister.
Welcome, Minister Konneh. Actually, we are concerned about what is happening in Liberia in terms of education. So the students wrote the president an invitation, and actually I think if it is agree with you, I would like to read it so that you can deliver the message, and hopefully we can have an audience with her. The student would like to have an audience.
Mr. Jabate, do you have to read this letter, or you want to get over to the minister?
We have tried several means to get this letter to the president, and we seem to not be getting any response.
Mr. Jabate, I'm in New York up to Friday. I will ask the moderator to share with you my number. Talking about, you have Mr. Jabate's number?
I do. I have his number, and I can share your number and your email address.
Share his number with me. I will call him tomorrow morning, and then I will tell him what I'm saying, which hotel, and then he can give the letter to me, and I will deliver it to the president.
Okay. That would be nice. But here is my suggestion again. And you mentioned something about helping students through vacation job. And I made a statement that vacation job is not the only way. We need to take those gifted and special students and put them in an accelerated program during the summer, and they will be able to pass those exams. We need to do those. We need to not just be introducing them to job. At this age, we need to also create those opportunities where they will reinforce or enforce their learning ability. They don't have enough time during the school year to study, and during the day, after school, light is out, they don't have light. So giving them an opportunity in the summer to read and study more will be beneficial to the country education system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jabate.
Thank you, Mr. Jabate.
Well said. I couldn't agree with you more. Well said. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, we will take, I don't know, there are two callers on 6899, so I don't know which one that is on this time. 6899, please, your name and your question for Konneh. 6899.
This is Augustus Konneh again. I hope I'm not trying to take over, but my comment or question may reflect the latest issue about corruption in Liberia, which of course I disagree with a lot of people's sense of corruption being way of life in Liberia versus government. I look at it from different perspectives in the sense that in order to minimize or in order to cut down on corruption, you also have to look at the equal distribution of some of the wealth of the country and look at the strategic area, for example, our security area, and I will give a typical example, the police, the military guys. I do not know exactly how much you pay them today, but from a common survey or experience, I think a lot of these police and security apparatus in the country do get themselves involved with petty corruption due to the fact that they are paid very low, and these guys have their family and children that they have to support. Now, in order for them to survive, a typical policeman will have to get a penny or a dime from the cab driver. Now, looking at the whole issue from my point of view, psychologically, there's more to the problem than just a policeman or a security personnel wants to be corrupt. So I think the government, or we might have to look at the system, look at the issue or the problem and do some studies as to why the people or the security, especially the security, the police, are involved into these things and try to see if there's a way to resolve some of these things by increasing pay of the security apparatus in Liberia. Because a lot of time people think, use a policeman as an example, but I think there's more to it than just a policeman being a corrupt individual. They sacrifice their life for the citizens of Liberia, and I think they need to be given more credit, and I think it is not. So I don't know what is the government doing to at least upgrade the standard of living for the security apparatus in our country.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, I'm glad you raised this issue. The government and the country have taken a beating in the past 2 months on this subject. All of a sudden, the country is the worst in the world, according to some of our own fellow citizens. Now, like I said in Minnesota, I would not defend corruption in Liberia. I just went through mine. I was accused of misapplying $13.3 million with no evidence, of that whatsoever. And people took with it. I will live with that for the rest of my life. Just the other day, which I usually do, I get out of my office, I go to the communities and try to ask them about their issues. And then the Don Bosco boys, those boys that sleep in the graveyard, usually will follow you, asking you for money for them to buy lunch and stuff like that. And when I turn to them and say, today I don't have money, I just came out to the regular person to understand the plight of our people. And one of them turned to me and said, oh, you're too mean. About all that $13 million you took, what can you can't give me some? I mean, it's funny, but that's what, spreading news like that can hurt people's reputation. But coming to this thing here, I think our brother is right. We need to understand the context of this. Look, I think we know what the issue is. Clearly, corruption remains endemic in our country. But I have to say that our country has also, over time, since the end of conflict, improved on key corruption indicators that are released by international bodies. We know, this is what we know. We know that about 69% of the large firms operating in Liberia view corruption as a major constraint, while the proportion of small firms is around 21.3%, and that for medium firms is around 23.1%. This is according to the World Bank Enterprise Survey of 2012. Okay, they're saying that these firms pay as a price of corruption about 2.5% of the value of the contract. All right? Now, this is what we know. But the same survey says that according to the Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index for 2012, Liberia does better than all comparators, including Sierra Leone, Guinea, the Gambia, and La Côte d'Ivoire. The only country in West Africa that does better than Liberia is two countries, Ghana and Cape Verde. But we ignore all of that, and then, we beat our country more. A country emerging from 35 years of trouble, of endemic corruption, is being beaten on. It's there. We just have to keep making progress. We have to focus. We have to blow the whistle like we did when the RIA situation was going bad. We have to be firm on this issue. The judicial sector should not be ignored. The executive takes all of the beating. The legislature, like I said in Minnesota, should not be ignored. The pressure has to be on. You have to keep talking to keep the government honest, but we have to make sure that we are communicating with the right people to ensure that we can improve on this. And finally, the recommendation that our brother gave in terms of increasing the welfare of our people working in the security sector, in the economic management sector, we have to pay them more in order to reduce this incidence of corruption, even in education. So we've made progress even though there are problems. All is not bad in our country. We have to be optimistic, knowing that our problems are many and they didn't just start yesterday.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Konneh. Folks, if you're just joining us, we haven't got much time left. We will not be keeping the minister very long tonight. It's Sunday night, actually Monday morning. Or not, maybe not quite here, but they will be, and they are here for official business. So the only way we can assure his return is to make sure we respect every agreement that was put in place before the show started. Having said that, if you're just joining us, I say welcome to the Liberian Diaspora Forum weekly talk show. If you have any questions, comment, or concern, please dial *61, and I'll get your questions over to the minister. My next caller, I usually don't take anonymous caller. I don't know why you block your number. But if you can unblock your number and come, we will appreciate that. You don't take anonymous call because I don't have anything on record. You can call any name. So whoever you are, anonymous caller, please unblock your number and call again. We'll take your question. We'll take the next question. 2270-2270. Your name, where you calling from, and your question from Honorable Konneh.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello. Your name, where
hello.
you calling from, and your question,
Yeah, I'm calling from Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yeah,
What's
my name is Rafam Sharif.
Okay, so Sharif.
Yeah, I appreciate the well done of Mr. Konneh. Mr. Konneh, how you doing there?
I'm well, Mr. Sharif.
Yeah, Mr. Konneh, I appreciate your job, and I appreciate whatsoever you've been doing for the people of Liberia. Liberia is a country who wants so many things. I mean, for the country to recover within one day, it's not an easy thing. And those who are taking example from America and try to compare with Liberia that comes from a long time of war and is a third world country, Mr. Honorable Konneh, I appreciate. I can tell you, thank you for your that you've been doing. Do what you got to do and sacrifice yourself for the sake of Liberia. When you got one or two person like you, definitely will move forward. You got to listen to the Liberians. Some people appreciate, some people will say whatsoever they got to say. But you just keep on doing your good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salih. Thank you. I do have a few text message questions here. I'm not sure if I'll be able to take all of them.
Sure.
The first one says, what percentage of our economy depends on restoration of electricity? You've spoken a lot about Mount Hydro power plant. So basically, what percentage of job creation in Liberia depends on that? It seems like a pretty obvious question to me, but it's a text message question from one Afri.
You want me to answer that? You want to give one or two more? Then I can just do all together.
I guess I can. We can keep that and take another one here. The other question is, you talked about the merger of the two ministries earlier, and when you were called as a minister for the combined ministry, you say you have not been appointed yet. So does that mean that you are technically out of job right now? You do have to be reappointed to head the two ministry, or what's the deal?
Okay. You want me to answer those two first?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The first one from Mr.
Alfred.
I just want to say, Alfred, just look around, do your research. There's no economy that can thrive and create jobs without cheap electricity. We can make all the fuss on the internet, we can complain until Judgment Day or until the three cows can come home. You know, the lives of the Liberian people will not be improved if we don't bring cheap electricity. In Liberia, sadly today, everybody, including people from the diaspora, are looking to government for employment. Government is not supposed to be an employer per se, but to create the right conditions for the private sector to create a job that will put Liberians to work. And so we don't know the number of jobs that this energy program will create. But what we do know for sure is going to reduce the energy tariff from the world largest today, as it stands at 54 cents per kilowatt hour, to about 10 to 11 cents. This means that the small mom and pop businesses operating in Liberia, those women who have their beauty salon, those men who have their barber shops, the people who charge cell phones, as their business, the small companies down Water Street, the beer factories of the world, their operation costs on fuel will go down, and then they will bring more people on the payroll. It means that Coca-Cola factory, as they introduce new commodities, like Diet Coke and stuff into the market now, will require more production and will require more workers. It means that the industrial park for which we have put earmarked money in the budget to rebuild, to put the infrastructure in place, the warehouses, the factory sites, the electricity, the fence around the place there, and the incentives to attract juice makers and other light manufacturing. We used to make SCOBY, sneakers in Liberia before. Most of you know that. We used to manufacture matches, biscuits, and other things. It means that those people will come online, and young people can wake up in the morning, pack their lunch bag, and walk to a place they call, work. So we're very optimistic that this energy program, with the massive infusion of resources into it, will, begin the transformation process of the Liberian economy. And then on the merger, that bill has not been signed yet into law by the president and printed into handbill. So technically, I still have a job. Technically, everybody still have a job. And there's provision in that law that gives the president the timetable to appoint a new team. And so as soon as that happens, I'm sure the president will announce the new team for the new ministry and the Liberia Revenue Authority. And then those who will be on that team will start working. But for now, she hasn't done so. So that's the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Konneh. I'll probably take, maybe accommodate just one more question in order to work within the frame of the 1 hour, 30 minutes time limit. Let me get some housekeeping stuff done here. If you want to listen to a repeat broadcast of today's show, as always, please dial the same number you dial to come on the show, 559-726-1200. 559-726-1299. The last 4 digits will change from 1200 to 1299, and the same access code will allow you to listen to a repeat broadcast of tonight's show, at least up until I'm able to upload the show on YouTube, just like I've done with all the previous shows. I know many of you have been on YouTube. You've seen the minister's previous appearance on YouTube, so we'll do with this one. And our next guest, as I said, will be Honorable Vani Sherman. I don't have a date yet. I will get back with him tomorrow, and then we'll go from there. I'll take one more question, and then I will let the minister wrap up so we can get him out of here. Hopefully we'll get him sooner rather than later again. 9852, 9852. Your name, where you calling from, your question from Konneh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumar, for taking up my call. My name is Musa Fofana. I just want to ask the Honorable Minister, based on the last statement he made regarding the private sector, being like one of the most integral part of improving the economy when it comes to employment, providing employment for the citizens of Liberia. My question is, what is the government doing when it comes to curtailing the monopolies that we've all experienced on the Liberian economy in the past? Because if we can recall, in Liberia, you will see one businessman will have monopoly on a particular industry or commodity that even if there are other interested parties who are trying to create another avenue with similar commodity or industry, it's kind of like hard for people to get into the business. With regarding for common example, the rice, and one of the main things also like the Coca-Cola factory in Liberia. We all know soft drink nowadays is not limited to Coca-Cola, and what would be the stand of the government, opening up the market to other brands of soft drink, like for example Pepsi. If we try to get Pepsi into Liberia, what would be the difficulties to having a rivalry to Coca-Cola factory? We know that in the past that would have been a very difficult thing. So my question is, to make it short, is what is the government doing to actually deal with these monopolies on the Liberian economy?
Okay. Well, Mr. Fofana, I can tell you for sure that today in Liberia, most of the barriers to entry to competitors have really been removed. For example, in the case of Coca-Cola Factory, if Pepsi wanted to come, Pepsi is welcome. I recall back when I was a kid, Pepsi came to Liberia, but because of the taste, that the customers didn't like, Coca-Cola prevailed over them. That has not changed. It's still there. I can only think of one major monopoly, even the cement, protecting cement and all of that. This government removed the monopoly. Some Liberian business people brought cement, but they could not compete. They did not have the right marketing strategy, and so Cemenco is still reigning that sector. We have also opened up the market to Dangote, the largest, cement man in Africa, a Nigerian. He's setting up a shop now at the Free Port of Monrovia to bring cement to compete with Cemenco. Liberia, the government, is divesting its share in Cemenco, which I'll be announcing in the next few weeks, encouraging Liberians to buy these shares so that they can invest in Cemenco in order to be competitive. The only monopoly I can think of in Liberia today is the FPRC, the only importer of fuel into the country, the central location where all fuel comes in the country. But also we are slowly breaking down, the whole, on fuel importation into the country by foreigners. Liberians are participating more today than they did before. There's also the flour mill, that the former Minister of Finance and the Central Bank Governor, owns and running. Have some protective tariffs because we're trying to promote Liberian businesses, but also it's not a place that can compete. So the economy is very for competition. It's a market economy. We hope that you and other colleagues listening here, or maybe who you might know that are interested in attracting firms in these sectors of the country, can do so. You will be giving the same incentives that these companies have so that we can compete with them.
Thank you, Robert Konneh. Now, before I return the floor to you for your closing remark, I believe these are probably one of the people I told to log off and unblock their numbers to come. I hope I'm right. Hopefully they've done so. So now I'll ask them to keep it brief, and then you can just close the show with that if you don't mind. 9533, 9533. Your name, where you calling from, and your question from Robert Konneh, very quickly. 9533.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I was not one of those that blacked the number anyway. I just came on the call.
All right. What's your name?
My name is Siliki Kumala. I'm calling from Philadelphia.
Okay.
Okay. I want to say thank you to the minister. I follow information regarding him from Liberia. Actually, he has been doing a great job, and I want to say thank to him for that. When I first came on the call, a brother spoke, and he said the truth regarding corruption in Liberia. But I think the corruption in Liberia is far beyond the police and other security members. I wanted to ask the minister as to whether the government have any plan regarding corruption, because you see there are people working in government. When they work in government, the salary they're taking is something that people are aware of, or the government knows how much she pay each and everyone in government. If somebody works in government and the person happens to do something, like do certain work that is more than the money he or she is earning annually, is that something for the government to look at and start to, make some investigation on that person, how the person get the money? That's one question that I have for the minister. Number two.
Can we just keep it to one so we can take one?
Just please, just one more, please. It's just a simple question. I'm from Lofa. The brother that talked about Lofa earlier, I really admire the question that he asked. The issue with Lofa County, I want to ask the minister, I learned that the government is trying to open Mount Wologisi in Lofa County. I don't know whether this is true or not. If it is, can you please elaborate a little bit? Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Quickly, on the unpacking corruption, let me say this. This is the one thing that will put a dent in our record, even when we successfully implement all of the economic transformation programs that I talk about. We take it very seriously. I have been meeting with all of the transparency institutions, GAC, the Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission, the Public Procurement and Concession Commission, and recently the Ministry of Justice. We can't be fighting each other in the government and contradicting each other's work. When the GAC does an audit report, we all need to line up behind it and support it until the accused is, exonerated in the court of, a public, public jurisdiction or whatever it is. I'm not a lawyer. Okay? Corruption always fights back, and it fights back strong. And if the government does not have a coordinated strategy where one person is not seen as fighting this, but a collection of efforts to do this, both in the executive and among these transparency institutions in the executive, and then building a powerful coalition with the judicial system, not in the sense of trying to compromise cases and falsely convict people, but so that they could understand what we're dealing with, the legislature, so that they can actually support the laws that they pass around this fight. We're not going to go anywhere. Everybody can focus on President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf as you want. She will do her best under circumstances and will do it. Number one. Number two, let me tell you what's happening. People have come to me, because I work on Saturday and Sunday. They've come to me and say, Minister, there are some of your people there who come to us say we must pay them money so they can reduce our taxes. I'm talking about foreign businessmen. I'm talking about Liberian businessmen and women. They are asked them to give me the names of those people and I will protect them. They say, I can't, I can't do it, Mr. Minister, because I fear for my life. And you tell me, what instrument you giving me to fight corruption if you refuse to give me the names of those who are doing it because you say they will hurt you? And I can understand them because I don't profess to be a perfect man, but it's a difficult fight in Liberia because those that we have caught since I have been the Minister of Finance and taking them through the justice system, they fought back, they gone to court, they sue some of us for $12 million, they threaten us, they send us threatening text messages every day. So people are afraid. So this fight here is not a one-person fight. The media has to be in this partnership, not necessarily to sensationalize the issue, but to do investigative journalism, protecting the identity of sources and making sure that this is they have all the evidence to back it up. And then our court system will also have to be part of this. So we have started now what I call our regular how to get it done meeting with the transparency institution that I am coordinating, and I want to thank my friends and my colleagues who are in those institutions so that we can hang here on a regular basis to see how we can help to protect the image of not only the government but the country. On the issue of Wologisi, the answer is no. Let me tell you this. The Chinese have been interested in Wologisi since the end of war. And then recently, India, because the geopolitics in Asia is that India and China are competing for supremacy in that part of the world. The government of Liberia has not taken any policy decision on the future of Wologisi. So all you have read about, on the internet, it's just speculation. They're all just speculation. The day that the government makes a decision on Wologisi, that will be publicly announced to Liberian people. Wologisi does not belong to Lofa alone. It belongs to all Liberians. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister. I don't know if you want me to take that as your closing remark or you, but I do.
No, Kafuma, really, I know it's fast spent now. You're right. I have to be out tomorrow, 8 o'clock.
Right.
To start hustling in New York, for resources for our development agenda. I just want to say to close that on the Liberian economy as a whole, the fundamentals are still strong, solid. We have grown at an annual average of about 7% since 2005, reflecting the peace dividends following the end of our protracted war. But let me say this, as the Minister of Finance, that despite of the rapid growth, the country's 5-year development strategy, the Agenda for Transformation, recognizes that the main drawback from this growth is the limited number of jobs that have been created, as the expansion of the economy has been driven mainly by the enclave sector, the extractive sector of the economy. Basically, this is where the economy was. So the economy has gone from a collapse, from the hole. We have brought it back to the surface, precisely where it was before the war started in 1990. What we need to do now is to make a major push over the next 4 years, put politics aside, and then deliver on this program, and then the rest will take care of itself. The key for us is political stability. We must make sure that the record we have now on political stability is consolidated. Liberia can see for the first time since the death of President Tubman a clean transition, democratic transition that will cement our young democracy. And only Liberians can do that. The international community is not a part of this. So I just want my countrymen to be very optimistic about the future of our country. We are getting there small, as we say in Liberia. And then we'll finally get there. No dictator in the future will reverse it. That's my message to my brothers and sisters in the diaspora.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Konneh. Folks, that was the Minister of Finance, Honorable Amara Konneh. We just heard from the man. Unfortunately, we have to leave it here because he has a busy day ahead of him tomorrow morning, as you would imagine. He didn't come to the States for this show, obviously. They are here on a official trip. So, well, good thing is he has assured me that we'll be doing this a little more regularly than you think. And so hopefully we will have the privilege of having him on sooner than you think. And
let me renew that promise again. Every quarter I will come online.
Okay.
The mistake our government is making is we're not telling our story, particularly to diaspora Liberians.
Thank you.
I don't want to point fingers, but I will make sure as the coordinator of Liberia's development strategy to regularly update our Liberian brothers and sisters in the diaspora on what is happening on the ground in Liberia.
Thank you. Thank you, Konneh. Well, you heard it. So those of you who didn't get to ask your questions tonight, my apologies to you. And unfortunately, we'll have to leave it here. We will have the minister some other time. And by the way, I do have some documents from the Ministry of Finance that I'll be making available to different listservs, websites beginning tomorrow. So hopefully that will help. And if not, well, we'll have him again some other time. So until then, thank you for being here, and let's call it a night. Honorable Konneh, thank you so much.
Don't forget to text me, Mr.
Jabater, Randolph Jabater, yeah.
And deliver the letter to the president.
I'll text that to you right now. So do have a good night, and my regards to your family, and good luck with the activities tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and good night.
Good night.
All right.